In this question, Tabitha wants to build a quadratic equation to model the flight of a cannonball fired into the air. We're using the standard form of the quadratic equation, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. She's going to use y to model the height of the cannonball and time to model x. So x is the time here. Tabitha has already built the following table, which shows the height at various times. Which of these four quadratic equations best fits her model? All right, so we need to derive a quadratic equation from a table. Okay, so based on the work you've been doing so far, this shouldn't be too bad. You're going to plug and solve some of these points. So the first one I always do is 0. When x is 0, so remember time is x, and y is your height. When time is 0, when x equals 0, that'll be your easiest point to solve for. I'm going to plug in that point into my standard form here. So ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm just plugging this in here. Let's start with that. Remember y, the output at x equals 0 is 2. So I'm going to write 2 to replace the y. And then a, instead of x, I'm going to write 0 now because I'm replacing the x's with the number 0. Squared plus b times 0 plus c. Okay, great. 2 equals 0 squared is still 0. So I have 0 times a, or a times 0 basically here, plus b times 0 plus c. Well, if you know anything about multiplying by 0, it just becomes 0 itself. So 2 equals 0 plus c. When you add 0 to something, nothing changes. The value doesn't change. So these are basically gone, and 2 is your c value. Okay, so that's the first step of our solving. Just based on that, you can look at your answer choices and cross one out immediately. I know that c, the last number, the constant, is 2, so my answer can't be this c here, because that's a 1. Let's go ahead and keep solving. I'm going to pick a different point. Let's do 1, 2. Whenever a number is 1, that's also pretty easy to solve. I'm going to plug that point in to my equation up here. So remember, y becomes 3 now, and my x's are 1s. So y, which is 3, equals a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c. Now I actually know what c is, right? Remember, I solved it previously. C is 2, so I should actually go ahead and erase that c and replace it with a plus 2. Perfect. So now I have my y point in there of 3, I have my x point of 1, and I have my constant of 2 in there. Let's go ahead and solve. So I have 3 equals a times 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, so it's just 1a, plus b times 1 is 1b, plus 2. I want to get my variables by themselves, so I'm going to get rid of that plus 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. These cancel out. I end up with 3 minus 2, which is 1. 1 equals a plus b. Okay, that's great. That will help me in a second, but I need to isolate one of these variables, right? I actually need to know what a and b are, so I can't have them together. So let's go ahead and get rid of maybe the b. I'm going to subtract b from both sides here. So that would give me a equals negative b plus 1, or 1 minus b. Those are the same thing. My b is negative, my 1 is positive. Okay, great. The last thing you need to do is substitute another point. Okay, I already created an equation, this a equals negative b plus 1. I need to create another equation. I'll have a system of equations, two variables. I can solve from there. Let's plug in my last point here into the same equation. That's the standard form equation. So I know that y is actually 2. Start with that. Equals a times, and instead of x, I'm putting in 2 from here, squared, plus b times, and then I know x is 2 again, and then plus, and instead of c, I know my c. It's right here. It's actually 2, so I'm putting that. It's a lot of 2's. So I get 2 equals a times, well, 2 squared is 4, so a times 4, plus, and then 2 times b. I'm going to write it like that. Great. Same thing, I want to get all my numbers on one side together, so let's get rid of that plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides. These cancel. 2 minus 2 is actually 0. So I'm going to end up with 4a plus 2b equals 0. This is the other equation I will use to solve this. Now all I need to do is actually solve my system of equations. I'm going to plug in my a equals, so this piece, as a here, and that will give me my answers. So I'm going to plug it in. 0 equals 4 times, and instead of writing a, I'm going to write negative b plus 1. And then I still have plus 2b. So that's just writing this equation down here, except I'm plugging in this equation, this isolated a, into the a right there. Okay, let's solve. 0 equals, I need to distribute here. 4 times negative b is negative 4b. 4 times 1 is positive 4. Okay, plus 2b still at the end there. And then I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So 0 equals negative 4b plus 2b becomes negative 2b. Negative 2b plus 4. I need to get the number on the other side to get my variable by itself. Subtract 4 from both sides. And now I end up with negative 2b equals negative 4. Divide both sides by negative 2. And my answer is just b equals negative 4 divided by negative 2 is a positive 2. Okay, so remember, I'm plugging that back in to my standard form equation up here. So the number in front of the x should be a 2. Let's see if any of those have it. Well, yes, a and b both have that. D does not. D has a 3 in front of the x, so that's not the answer. Narrowed it down to 2. One very last step, I promise you this one's quick, and that is just to find a by plugging the b I know now into this equation down here. So I know b is 2, and I know a is negative b plus 1, so I'm just going to solve it. A equals, plugging in the 2, negative 2 plus 1. Well, that just gives me negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So my answers are a is negative 1, b is 2, c is 2. I'm plugging those into this equation, and so I should have a negative 1 out front in front of the x squared, it looks like, and that is true. The answer here is a.